Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside Upon Further Review for this Wednesday. Another week 2 in the books, heading to week 3. I'm Eric Dudkevich alongside the coach, Shannon Griffith. We're taking you up for the next hour right here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM, on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and of course, on demand anywhere you get your audio podcast. Coach, good evening to you. Good to see you once again.
Yeah, we're here for week 4, I guess you could say. We're coming out of week 3, heading to week 4 already. It's crazy to think that we're almost halfway into the season.
Are we starting to measure where we are in the season already? Well, I mean, I think realistically too, like, it is you when you kind of break it up, you've got your non-conference 2 weeks, you've got your 7 regular season games, and then you get into playoffs. I mean, it really does fly by, especially when you put it into chunks. And, Coach, they're often running in the conference races. And boy, oh boy, SAC Friday night. What a night that was. I think, leading the way, what came down to it. And I think it was the talk of the town all Friday night, wound up being the biggest game Friday night as far as, magnitude for a lot of things. And ultimately, Northrop gets the big win over Northside out at Spooler Stadium. Northrop moves to 3-0 and first place in the SAC, along with several other schools. But wow, what a night for Northrop doing it home. Big way, Quay Guilford, big game, to lead the Bruins.
Yeah, Quay had five receptions, 2 touchdowns, 70 yards. Callison, again, though, 14 of 19. That's a 74% completion rate. He did have had 2 interceptions on the night, but threw for over 200 yards. So he's played very well, of course, on top of that. I'm sorry, Guilford rushed for 70. That's what I had the wrong column up there, is what I should have said. And then had another 37 on the ground. And is it Whale? Maddox
Whale, yeah.
Yeah, he had 91 yards in receiving. So good night all around. Tight ball game. I mean, 2 teams that have played well. I mean, Rivers for Northside. I mean, he threw for 216. So
yeah,
it wasn't like Northside didn't have some big plays out there. They just didn't have the ground game that Northrop had, because Northrop almost had 200 yards and Northside had 107. So the rushing team won that one, but I would say 2 of the top area teams right now. You got to look at both of those teams, and when you compare them to what we've seen already, they've got to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the Summit Athletic Conference this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, playmakers all over the field for that Northrop team. And, the schedule lent itself to the opportunity to do this. We don't see this very often, where we have a 2-0 Northside, 2-0 Northrop playing for a chance to go 3-0. The Northrop Bruins get that victory. And, Coach, they are first time 3-0 since 1983. And I was trying to go through the archive. You happen to know who the quarterback was for the Northrop Bruins?
Well, I was one of them back in the day, so that'd have been my
It was a team effort.
Well, I can't remember. I would have been my sophomore. It had been my sophomore season, so I think I was playing at that time, pretty much. But that'd been a sophomore year.
Yeah,
man, that just seems like yesterday.
Times there. I mean, and just talk about that, Coach. I mean, you were in that program. Of course, Dean Dorfler was your coach at the time. We're a long way off from you being the QB at Northrop and Dean Dorfler being the coach. But that program, the meaning for a place like Northrop, we've seen some downtrodden years for the last probably, almost 40 years, really, when it comes down to it, since 1983, really. How important was Friday night for Northrop High School, and just the history of where that program has been in the last 25 years?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it goes back to those kids now believing in something anew there, and believing in Coach Bowen and what he's brought to the table there as a program. Jason Dorfler, he had some years that were good, never seemed to get over the hump there at that time. And then there was some times when I think Coach Stinson back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had some good teams in that era of the Summit Athletic Conference as well. So Northrop has had their fair share of some tradition there. It's just that it hasn't been a consistent tradition, probably like you said, for a good 15 years, maybe, if not more, where they've had a team like get off to a hot start like this. Now, that could all change on a dime. But at the end of the day, right now, like I said, when you look at them based upon what we've seen, that team and the Northside team are some of the two top best in the conference, and you throw Dwenger in there now that they're kind of rolling as well. So it's going to be an interesting Summit Athletic Conference race.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it, you talk about some of those years in the early 2000s with Matt Stinson as head coach, and I think this is several times where Northrop has been 2-0. But I think a big part of it has been looking back at their schedule from 1997 through 2015. Northrop played Snider in the third week every year.
Yeah, so, about right.
And a lot of times they were playing Luers and Snider back-to-back in weeks 2 and 3. So, I mean, it was very tough in the SAC for a lot of those schools just off the bat. And I think that's realistically where this conference has gone in the conference realignment with all the divisions, the opportunity for teams to play some more competitive games, if you will. And I think we did see a lot of crossover games, and we saw a few blowouts on Friday night within the conference. But ultimately, you get a game like Northside and Northrop. You get a game like Snider and Luers again, first time in 3 years that those two teams have played. Right. A 9-0 game, 3 field goals. That was our Midwest Box Breaks game of the week on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. But nevertheless, that's an old-fashioned rivalry. And so I think it gives an opportunity for some of these other teams to play each other on this kind of rotating circuit. And so it worked out this year for Northrop. They go up late and get that big win at home. But like you mentioned, Northside had a great showing too. It was a nip and tuck game. I think a lot of the issues probably it started to get a little chippy in some of the personal fouls and the yardage that piled up that way. But ultimately, a fantastic game out there that rolls over to next week now for those Northrop Bruins.
Yeah, Northrop was able to score 12 fourth-quarter points, and that was the difference in the game because they were down going into the fourth quarter, 16-13. So they were able to get it done in the fourth quarter, and that's when that's when it matters the most. And you got to give them credit as well as Northside because those two teams are fighting against some of the teams such as Homestead and Carroll and Snider through the years, and they've been pretty decent teams, even though they weren't at the top per se. But I think these two teams are in a better position now to start being in that conversation with the upper echelon of the Summit Athletic Conference year after year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Northrop moves to 3-0. And I think also important to mention there about these Bruins, points wise, 97 points scored in 3 games, 39 given up. So their defenses look great too. That comes out to averages of 32.3 on the offensive side, 13.0 on the defensive side. Now they travel to Homestead on Friday night to try to keep that going. Another big time matchup. Now this is a division matchup because Northrop is in that A division. So they go on the road for the next 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of carries over. They had a big win at New Haven and then 2 home wins over Huntington North and Fort Wayne Northside. And then ultimately they'll go on the road here with Homestead and Concordia. For Northside, they look to rebound with a game against Concordia come Friday night. And and we'll preview some of the games coming up later on as well. And Coach, another big game, another big win to keep things rolling in the last couple of weeks has been Dwenger. They go out to Wayne High School and really put it on the Generals there on Friday night. And I think, they have looked impressive after, really the start of the season. They get the 46-0 win over Wayne on Friday, a running clock situation in the second half, or I think it was 46-0 in half, and then it just with the running clock, they didn't score anymore after that because they could have put up a lot more. Some of these college scores we saw last weekend that could have easily, but Dwenger really looking impressive, really starting out well. Another big win on Friday night on the road at Wayne and they're looking to click on all cylinders and really rebound after a couple tough seasons over there at Shields Field.
Yeah, we said last week with their win over in Toledo, that may have been a game that catapulted them into the possibility of getting some games under their belt where they get on a streak. And that's a very realistic proposition for them. And, they've played really good the last 2 weeks with their run game and offense. And, of course, we knew their defense was always tough. So
yeah.
It's the team that I said that everybody needed to keep an eye on this year just because of what they had coming back defensively and the fact they had an offense that I think was ready to start making headway with some older guys and things like that and getting Jordan back at quarterback and just some of the things that you need to have success on Friday night. They've got some of those guys in the fray, and I do think they will have a say in the conference race this year.
Yeah, 46-0 win. All told, Dwenger 77-18. They've outscored their opponents this off season, this season so far in total. So 18 points given up on that defense. Of course, that includes that 3-0 loss to Indianapolis Roncalli to open the year, but 31-15 over Toledo St. Francis de Sales out of Ohio, and then the 46 to Wayne. And in fact, we're pleased now to be joined by our guest tonight here on Upon Further Review from those Bishop Dwenger Saints, those victorious ones from Bishop Dwenger. We're pleased to be joined by Andrew Trahin. Andrew, are you there tonight?
Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Fine. Thank you so much for joining us. So talk about, just start back on Friday. I actually got out there a little bit. We were over at Bishop Luers, and then I headed over to Wayne since it was down the street. I figured I could catch two games at one night kind of deal. They were so close. When I got there, you guys were already up big, but I felt this is a Dwenger I hadn't seen a while. Just talk about, this team so far, what you've been able to do as far as, getting things rolling again and just a strong performance on Friday and really what we've seen all season.
Yeah, so, it all starts with our defense. Just like you said earlier, only allowing 18 points in the past 3 games. That's just really impressive to me. But we've got the O-line clicking against Wayne because St. Francis was kind of tough, going against Polk, he's committed to Rutgers. So that was a tough D-line, but just kind of getting everything figured out on offense just kind of tied us back in altogether as a team.
Sure, absolutely. Looking at the stats from, and you play both ways, right?
Yeah.
So we'll start with the offensive side of things. I think, 188 yards on the ground. Obviously you got a lot of guys in there. Cole and Campbell, the sophomore running back, 108 yards. But talk about the running game. I think it's something for us that we've kind of been it's kind of been bottled up. I don't know if it's bottled up. Maybe that's too strong, but you guys have been trying to find that. Like, it seems like it's there this year. What does the offseason look like in that regard of just trying to continue to establish and find that running game and get things clicking for this season?
We just had to make sure the whole line just thinks in one. We all have to work together and do the same thing, the right thing, all at the same time. And then just, timing the snap and the handoff, everything. Our run game I think, has always been there. Last year is our strongest part. And I think it just kind of carried over into this year after we got it started against Wayne.
Sure, and that has led to some big performances through the air with Henry Jordan. He's healthy. He's back. He's definitely QB1 on this team now. Talk about his maturation. Yeah. You're on that offensive line. You've seen his growth over the years. What are we going to see this year out of him that's going to make this a special year for him?
Yeah, Henry's definitely special. He's obviously an athletic guy. Yeah, he can really throw it though. I think that's the best part about him. He can really throw it, and he's smart too. He knows what to do and when to do it.
Sure. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, Andrew, talk about your game over in Ohio against Toledo. Was it DeSales? Or
Yeah,
is that what?
Yeah.
St. Francis de Sales.
St. Francis
St.
DeSales.
Francis DeSales, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that game, because not too many times we see a Fort Wayne team head into, let's say, Toledo. Now, you guys have played, you've played Moeller, you've played some prominent other Catholic schools in Ohio. The St. Francis DeSales was another one. But talk about that game, because in some ways that kind of catapulted you guys to where you're at now, getting yourself on a roll here.
Yeah, I'd say having an out-of-state opponent come in and people think we're going to lose. But, I mean, it just showed our defense, especially at the beginning. Our defense showed out. And then our offense started getting going there. It just kind of showed, I think, what the future of the season will look like.
Yeah, I mean, that was an impressive win, beating an Ohio team. Of course, they always think they're better than Indiana football anyway, as I hear from time to time. But, Friday night, you guys, like you said, your running game has been rolling. Campbell had 108 yards, but you guys ran for 188 total while keeping Wayne to only 53 yards on the night and 100 of total yards of offense all night on Friday night. So it was a pretty dominant win by both sides of the ball. But the running game, talk about some of that as well, because you guys have been able to, get yourself in a position where you guys are doing quite well running the ball again.
I think it's to do with the fact that our O-line is pretty experienced this year for the first time in a little while. A lot of us have came back from last year, and we have multiple running backs that we trust to run the ball, and they can do it for a while, and we can sub them, keep them fresh. And all of them are just good. Colin, he's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
He played the first game on JV, but yeah, I've always thought he was kind of special. He's good. Houston's good. Obviously, AJ, he's more of the middle guy. And then obviously Gus too.
Yeah. Now, you're the left tackle here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And who's this against here?
These are just a mixture. I think these are just
Moeller.
mixtures of highlights from actually last season.
Okay. Even better. Even better. Because this is you going up against Moeller.
Yeah.
So this is a good.
That D end was a that D end was a Northwestern commit.
Yeah, they got some boys. I know that. And yeah. But do you think these type of games help prepare you guys for the season that you're in now in the conference, playing teams like Moeller and DeSales and things of that nature?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, last year playing Brownsburg and then Moeller too, both ESPN, I think top 100 teams at one point. It's not like normal games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't line up a guy. You're not going to line up
so much faster.
Yeah, you're not going to line up a guy from all the time going to Northwestern or other Big Ten schools. Although we do have those caliber players within the Fort Wayne area, and we've had quite a bit success with guys going on to play the Division I level, be it the MAC or the Big Ten. So, and you are a commit to Eastern Michigan, is that correct?
Yes.
Up there with Coach Creighton in the factory.
Yeah.
So you didn't think I knew all that. You're kind of surprised right now. Who's this gray-headed guy?
I didn't assume anything.
Talk about that decision though, Andrew. What was it about Eastern Michigan? We see a lot of guys go the MAC route. You're going to be the next one of the next ones to do that. What was it about Eastern Michigan that you decided that's where you want to play your college ball?
Well, at first, it was just the O-line coach. I really liked him. He actually grew up in Indiana, but he's been everywhere. He's coached at Temple, and just a bunch of other big time colleges,
Who
and
who's the coach? Who's the O
sometime in
line
the
coach?
NFL.
Who's the coach at the at?
We's a
Oh,
hand.
yeah, I know him very well. Yeah, Chris. Yep,
Yeah,
know Chris very
yeah,
well.
Chris. Yeah, I liked him a lot. And then I took my own little visit before my official visit,
Yeah.
just to see the campus a little bit before, and I just really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone there
Yeah,
was
it's
really
not.
nice, and
Yeah, not too far away from home. It's one of those
mm,
schools that it's far enough away from home you can feel like you're on your own, but yet
yeah,
when you need mom's cooking or her laundry skills, you can get home and have her take care of you that way. But
yeah,
good, it's a good school. You're
yeah,
going to be a part of a staff that I believe is a good, solid staff with Coach Creighton, who I know quite well, Coach Weisenhand, the offensive line coach. So you'll be in good hands there at Eastern Michigan with those guys. And as you look through the rest of this season coming up, what has Coach been preaching to you guys now that you've got yourself on a little roll here, one back-to-back games? What has
yeah.
Coach's message been here the last couple weeks?
Just to stay humble and stay on the course. Not to beat ourselves, and just like stay in the moment and don't look like too far ahead or anything like that.
Well, that's good to hear, and we'll hopefully get out there and see the Saints again this year. Matter of fact, we've got them this Friday, right? Friday against the Carroll Chargers.
Yeah.
And that will be a dandy of a ball game because of what Carroll puts on the table offensively. And, of course, your defense being a solid defense that you guys are. This should be a real good game on Friday night there at Carroll.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, we appreciate you jumping on tonight here on Upon Further Review and chatting with us. And great to talk with you. Best of luck the rest of the season and your high school career and at Eastern Michigan as well. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot of you this season.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
All right, big man. Have a good one.
That was Andrew Trahin. For those wondering the spelling, Trahin. He pronounces it Trahin. I did double check before the show and wanted to make sure we get that right. A tremendous player from Bishop Dwenger, a two-way player who, and you never think about that, Coach. That's a big part of what you brought it up, and great question there. Playing the Cincinnati Mollers, the Brownsburgs, and Toledo, St. Francis, and not only for a team. We always talk about the team aspect and how it's going to benefit them to in the postseason and when they enter in conference play. But for somebody like Andrew Trahin to line up against a Big Ten defensive end as a junior in high school when he was Andrew, and to get those reps and to go up against some big time athletes, that helps immensely for a young man who's going to go play college football at Eastern Michigan, develop his skills as well.
Yeah, no question. And it gives him a chance to gauge where he is at versus a kid that is viewed as a big-time Big Ten prospect. And that helps him in a multitude of ways individually, especially gauging his game. And like you said, having an opportunity to go play at a MAC school now up at Eastern Michigan. And those are the type of games that helps him put on tape how good of a player he's going to be and get a good valuation. Because sometimes those guys like him can really dominate on a Friday night. And sometimes evaluating those guys can be tough because they're so dominant. That they, is it the talent that they're playing against is why they're dominant, or do they really have the ability to be that type of player? So when those big guys get a chance to go up against top-tiered defensive ends or defensive tackles, that gives them the opportunity to put good tape out there so that they can be evaluated thoroughly. And then when they go out on the camp circuit, those coaches will really know who those guys are. And it doesn't surprise me that Eastern Michigan picked up a kid like that. Coach Creighton, and I've known for years, and Coach Weisenhand, the offensive line coach as well, both former Wabash Giants back in the day. Coach Creighton was the head coach many years ago at Wabash. That's kind of where he got his start. But, he values a kid like that. Especially coming from a Dwenger, where he knows he's going to get a good, solid, all-rounded type of player. And, they've done a good job at Eastern, so he'll fit right into their makeup.
Absolutely. And we thank you, Andrew, for coming on tonight. A reminder, our Midwest Box Breaks game of the week on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM this Friday night. Bishop Dwenger at Carroll, a big one in the SAC A division, and really overall, because all games count in the SAC no matter who you play. And so that'll be our big one on Friday night. It all starts out with the PSM high school football tailgate pregame show at 6, followed by the Kester's postgame show powered by Pizza Hut. Immediately following the game, Shannon will be on the color commentary alongside our friend Brett Rump. So check that out on Friday night. A big one. We're going to step out and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more of this coming week's games and share more action from last Friday night and look ahead at this coming Friday's games. You're listening to Upon Further Review on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back to Upon Further Review here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. We thank you for joining us here alongside Eric Dukevich. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. And a couple things before we jump back in and talk a little bit about the Snider Bishop Luers game that we had Friday night. 1380 The Fan has been nice to give us here at Upon Further Review a chance for those out there listening on 1380 The Fan or other entities that may come along the way. But most importantly, we have tickets to the IU versus Illinois game here in a couple weeks on a Saturday, and that game is already sold out. So these tickets would be a high commodity ticket. So we can give a 4-pack out for that game next Saturday down in Bloomington, and we'll just have you text Hoosiers to 260-447-8500. That's Hoosiers to 260-447-8500, and we will say the magic number 3 on that text that comes in will get those tickets for the Indiana versus Illinois game here in a couple weeks, which will be a huge game, not within the Big Ten, but also on the national landscape when you start talking about college football playoffs. Indiana more than likely will be undefeated going into that game at 3-0, and Illinois, who had a big game Saturday versus Duke and came away with a big win, will probably as well be undefeated. So you'll probably have 2 undefeated teams. Illinois will more likely be in the top 10 in the country going into that week. Indiana is in the top 20. So you're going to have 2 ranked teams playing next Saturday down in Bloomington. So the third person who texts Hoosiers at 260-447-8500 will have a 4-pack for that game for you at Indiana next Saturday.
Yeah, so, September 20th,
yep.
Illinois, IU. Illinois going into this weekend, they're out of the AP polls that came out on last Sunday, so another week till the game, but currently ranked number 9, and IU in the polls at 22 this week. So, yeah, we could see a top 25 matchup down in Bloomington, and what a cool way from 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM to send you to that high ticket game, that big-time game. Just text Hoosiers to 260-447-8500. Texter number 3 will get those tickets down at Memorial Stadium a week from Saturday. Well, Coach, we move on back to high school football, and our game of the week, our Midwest Box Breaks game of the week from a week ago last Friday, saw Luers and Snider. It was the first time we had seen that battle in a while, 3 years, in fact, since this new conference alignment has been set up, and a different type of Snider versus Luer game, you would say. The final score 9-0 with 3 Mang-Tung field goals for the Panthers. So 9-0 Snider wins. Not the most exciting Snider Luers game we've seen, but ultimately for Snider, a win's a win. They move to 1-0 in the conference and get their first win of the year. And then Luers shut out again. They fall to 0-3 on the year, and
10 straight quarters of
it's been a struggle.
Football.
So just your thoughts quickly, off the top of what we saw Friday night out at Luers Field.
Well, it was kind of a sloppy game in some ways on Friday night, and Snider, I think, is got some youthfulness that's showing, especially at the quarterback position. That has been one area that they've not been able to, overly accomplish on a consistent basis. Two good running backs, Buchanan and Davis, both are hard runners. They run hard. And then it just was a game that at times end up being in the second half marred by penalties. Luers had 3 personal fouls in that game. Snider had 1. And that was kind of the one of the big things that stuck out in the second half of that ball game. And some crazy things happened. It was just, there were some crazy things happening in that game. A punt that's it hits off the leg of a Luers player who doesn't think it hit him and recovered by Snider. And it went back and forth and the same drive. It was just, it was crazy. Cause then but Luers get an interception or a fumble recovery that they recovered, but then Snider strips it, gets the ball back, gets a new set of downs because of the play that occurred on was like 3rd down and 9. So there was some crazy things, but there's no question that Maltung is a definite weapon for Snider. He's got a strong leg, and it's good to have a kid like that because, like, when you're struggling to put points on the board and you're down there in the red zone and not cashing in, you at least got 3. And that ended up being a huge part of that game is his ability to kick some field goals because if they didn't have that ability, it could have been a bad day all the way around. But, Snider's going to struggle a little bit this year. Defensively, it's just youthfulness. That's the only thing. They're going to have to get better as the year goes on. They just don't have that junior, senior, latent team that they've had. And they've got some really good young talent running around out there. And those kids are going to get better and better and better. So don't feel too sorry for them. Snider will rebound back and they will be a top contender in the Summit Athletic Conference. And who's to say they could get on a run here and really get things rolling and still knock on the door of the Summit Athletic Conference because of that staff that Coach Tippmann has. So it's an interesting group of kids. And then Luers, they changed the quarterback in that game too, which was a little surprising. So
yeah, absolutely. Looking at the stat lines from that, you mentioned it, just what they were able to do here, pulling that up. Reichert for Luers, 5 for 14 for 40 yards and an interception. And then Snider, 39 yards through the air, basically. And then Jordan Davis, 72 yards rushing. Buchanan added another 14. I'm guessing that's Uriah's brother. Just off the top of my head, I'm guessing so. But I think, too, what we saw from Snider was a little bit more passing, and you got your tight end in Owen Dodson. He's headed to Grand Valley State next year, a good tight end who kind of has entered the fray. And realistically, for as much as Snider's known as a running team, when the running isn't there, it's nice to be able to kind of have those check downs, that tight end that they often go to too. And I think we see that with Owen Dodson. And so I think Snider will continue to develop. For Luers, it's just one of those things where they've just struggled to move the ball and get the ball in the end zone and get any points whatsoever. Sophomore quarterback, sophomore running backs, sophomore receiver, that will come in time. It's just very hard when you're playing teams like Snider to find that, and it may bear out that way.
They overthrew 2 wide open receivers that had got behind the secondary of Snider, and had they hit both of them, we're talking about a Luers win. And Snider came out with an aggressive approach. They came out and threw first couple times of the night to the tight end. And for whatever reason, they went away from it. I mean, they totally abandoned it. It was like they're moving the ball with it, then they stopped doing it. And I don't know why that was. And then later in the game, I think they come back to it a couple more times, but it's just youthfulness. I mean, that's the thing that Coach Lindsey's going through with those two quarterbacks. They're sophomores. They're learning under fire, and they'll be better for it. And it's just a matter of time till they break through. Their defense is really good. That's what's keeping them in games. When you think about it, their defense has played very well in these games. And if they can get some offense going, they're going to be a team that can be a bona fide team that could, knock some teams off.
Yeah, Luers rushes for 155 yards. 122 of those from Terrence Epperson. So really strong showing for him. I saw this key line. Third down, Snider 2 for 13, 15%. Luers 5 for 10, 50%. So, I think there's probably some credit to the defense as well, because down there they were bottling those running games up. I mean, you have Jordan Davis, an all-conference running back, that just wasn't getting those breakouts.
Right.
So that line play was strong. We've talked about it with a lot of the SAC teams this year, and how it starts and stops with the line play. So I think one of the good things coming out for both teams too, I think, is just their defensive line play. I mean, and so it'll be interesting to see as those games go along this coming week, and what they're able to do. So that was the 9-0 victory for Snider last week over Luers. Snider now goes to Wayne, or hosts Wayne, on Friday night at Spooler Stadium, where Luers is at Southside for the Battle of Calhoun Street, or the Calhoun Street Brawl, depending on how you label it. So that should be a fun one. And you know what? That's going to be an intriguing matchup, Coach. I mean, just thinking about that now, the way Southside can put points on the board, how much success are they going to find against that against Luers, who is that should be a fun matchup on Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game to take a peek at. And I was looking at Snider's next couple games. They've got Wayne this week, and then they have on the 19th Snider and Carroll. That'll be their next big matchup. And so they got a chance to get themselves straight against Wayne and go into that Carroll game, having to play their top ball, because that will be a huge matchup for them. And that is out at Northrop at Spooler Stadium. So that one will be a dandy of a game here in a couple weeks. But you're correct. The Luers got Southside this week, a game that you have to say from both perspectives is a chance to get themselves in the win column at this point in time. And Southside again still going through some growing pains. I mean, they lose to Homestead 30-10 on Friday, and how about Homestead's resurrection, so to speak, after losing their QB1 in that week 1 contest, to come back and beat Noblesville with their backup quarterback, and then go on and beat Southside at Southside on Friday night 30-10. So, all Sparty is starting to find some life in some of the players that are in backup roles that are counted on to be players on Friday night. And thus far, it's been a positive thing for them.
Yeah, Logan Frieden, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns against Southside a week ago. Carter Kennedy, another 173-yard game. So whenever we get Homestead on here, between those two, we're going to have to really we might have to have them both, because they really go hand in hand, and that has really moved the needle for Homestead the last couple of weeks.
And look at that, because Carroll and Dwenger we've got this week on the 1380 The Fan Game of the Week. And then the following week, Dwenger plays Homestead at Bishop Dwenger. So you've got two big games with the Dwenger Saints that are involved with two of the teams that are going to be contenders, and two games that they can really separate themselves potentially from the rest of the field if they can get a couple wins here back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Homestead and Northrop is a big one this weekend because you've got, Northrop with the success they've had. And like I said, Homestead too, another team that I think it's 3 straight years of 5-5, 5 and 5 years. So, really riding some momentum there. So that should be a fun game and all of that. But exciting there to see too. And that's what's great about the SAC is that a lot of these games means so much now. And, all is not lost come week 4. I mean, think about it. All of these teams have a shot. Northrop is, and really a team like Northside is still in the conversation because being in the B division, they could get some big wins over there against the Luers and things like that. But also how the dominoes fall between Carroll and Snider and Carroll and Dwenger and Homestead and Snider and Homestead. Those are all good games to come as well that can really benefit Northrop and Northside both.
Yeah, I don't see the Summit Athletic Conference being settled until we get to the latter part of October this year, just because
it's not on the field of the last game after the game is
could
over. I tell you, and that's what it is. I think we're still trying to learn some of these rulings, but I think best thing I can say about the SAC race is it ain't over until it's over. And sometimes when it's over, it ain't over. So it'll be interesting. But a lot of great teams and a lot of great competition to come in the SAC and across the area. And so, Coach, I think that's great to take our next break so that when we come back on the other side here on 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM, we look at some of next week's games, this coming Friday's games, as we enter week 4, week 2 of the conference slate. We'll be back with more breakdown and more talk of different games here on 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM and upon further review.
Welcome back to Upon Further Review here on 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM. Thank you for joining us again here this evening as we just got done wrapping up the Summit Athletic Conference. We're going to jump into the NE8 here in a second. Just to remember, text Hoosier to the text line. That is 260-447-8500. And number 3 the number 3 text that will text that Hoosiers to that number. We will get in contact with you to let you know the particulars of what will be the best time for you to stop out and pick up those tickets at the 1380 studios. And that will be in a day after that is all completed. That's something new that we're doing here. So me and Doot are kind of learning on the run with that.
That's great.
But remember, that's Illinois versus Indiana, 2 ranked teams potentially here in a couple weeks. Text Hoosiers to 260-447-8500, and that will be text number 3, and we will let you know all the particulars of that. Now, jumping back into some of the ball games here this past week, and we'll jump over into the NE8 just to kind of touch in with another league of good teams and things going. But you got to say right now that East Noble is on a roll in that fashion as they pick up another huge win over Huntington North on Friday night, 39-0. And usually that's a game that East Noble has struggled in the past. But Riley Biddle, 243 yards on 19 of 32 on the night, 3 touchdowns. And then he adds in another 9 yards of rushing. But the freshman phenom, Austin Phillips, 10 carries for 176 yards. That's a 17.6 yard per carry. And he also had a touchdown of 100 yards. So I'm imagining he returned a kick or something back too, potentially on that one.
Yeah.
But again, this East Noble team, they've got it rocking and rolling, and they still got to face the Columbia Cities and the Leos of the world. But right now, having beaten Snider handedly, now beating and shutting out Huntington North to follow that game up, you got to say that East Noble's back on a mission to get down to Lucas Oil.
Absolutely. I mean, and you look at what they're doing. Well, first of all, they won 15 of their last 16 games. The loss at the state finals. There are only 2 loss. I mean, let's go back. How about this coaching job from Alex? And how about the hiring job that East Noble and Luke Amstutz did in their first time, after Luke was promoted to the activities and athletics director at East Noble, to bring in Alex Stewart from Western out of Howard County, a nice program there. He comes in and 16-2 so far. They get to the state finals, and they've really, not only have they picked up, I think they far exceeded just picking up where they left off. I mean, that's what we were saying in week 1 and 2. I think at this point they can say they have really advanced things. I mean, and somebody like Austin Phillips coming in, the freshman phenom, you mentioned it, really filling that void, and really didn't get necessarily the first team reps in week 1 and 2, but he got thrown into that game, and he pretty much sees that spot in a lot of ways and sees the opportunity that he got. So we talked to Alex Scott earlier this year. He's, been tremendous for them. Riley Biddle, tremendous playmaker. So East Noble is on that mission, I think, and it's safe to say. And, a lot was said about last year as far as what they graduate, but they are just as advertised and really strong and really good this year. And they get the big win over Huntington North, 39-0. Now they go to DeKalb on Friday, a team that coming up, they've got some new, so it should be interesting to see. But I just expect big nights every Friday from Riley Biddle and crew. And I think, it's just going to keep going and going. And they got some big games coming up too. I mean, that's going to be fun.
Well, they got
Leo in Columbia City on October 3rd. And so what I think will be very interesting is they got a really good schedule. The latter half, and I'm not saying they're gonna blow things off and all of that, but those last 2 games, New Haven and Belmont, that'll be really interesting too, because you come off those big games and making sure you're getting primed for the off season, I shouldn't say off season, the post season, because realistically those 2 teams, you can put them away early, but you don't want to take your foot off the gas too much, and it's always an integral part. But this East Noble team just absolutely rolling.
Yeah, they are, in the driver's seat, you would have to say, and then closely behind them will be Columbia City and Leo both. And, they're going to have to play very good football against this East Noble team, because Biddle right now is probably the best quarterback in and around Northeast Indiana, in my eyes, based upon what he's done, and then what they've got also in the other athletic positions. When you have a freshman that's bursting on the scene like Austin Phillips has, there's a 4-year nightmare for whoever's going to play him in the NE8 heading forward. But good for them. They're getting, well into their rhythm of the season, and I don't look for them to stumble. They're going to have to beat themselves going on the rest of the season, and that's making mistakes, and I don't necessarily see them doing that all that well. But other games in the NE8 this past week, of course, Columbia City rolls over Belmont, DeKalb and New Haven. DeKalb gets their first win of the year, 40-20. And then Leo, again, gets a W over Norwell. And some games of note next week will probably be, can Huntington North rebound off of that game against East Noble against the Columbia City team, who comes in undefeated as well. So we're going to find out more about Columbia City, because that'll be a good barometer to gauge them and East Noble against a common opponent like Huntington North.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're sitting here on September 10th when and we're talking East Noble, Columbia City, Leo, and Dwenger, all top 10 teams in Class 4A, all in the same sectional. So, I'm probably going to be saying that every week from here on out till the time sectionals start, because that's going to be a dandy. And that is every year, and that's just how it's borne out. And we've seen some fantastic games, so that should be some fun fun football to watch as well. And Coach, in the ACAC, the big one from last Friday night, South Adams and Bluffton. Bluffton gets the big win. Axton Best playing his best, looks really strong in that game as well. And they get the big win to keep marching on. Edge out South Adams 44-41, a close game of two top 10 teams in different classes. Kind of the second rung on the ACAC ladder, we say, because of Adams Central. But I think, wow, two good teams that, may have, could really bring some pressure to Adams Central later in the year too. But this was a great game down in Bluffton.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be the game of the week in the ACAC this past week. And, they getting a big win there. And then, of course, Heritage knocking off Woodland in a 42-21 game. Adams Central goes to Muncie Central, which that's really like them playing up in stature, and they get a big win 41-13 there. So that one's going to be an interesting conference to keep an eye on here, because they really don't face one another. South Adams will play Adams Central on the 26th of September. And I don't believe Bluffton plays them. I'm trying to look here.
Bluffton plays Adams Central on October 10th.
October 10th, that's it.
So
and that's at Bluffton.
Yeah, and at Heritage on October 3rd.
So yeah, we've got some, again, some games that are still to be decided there in the ACAC. It sounds like South Adams has kind of picked up their pace a little bit, even though they lost a tough one to Bluffton. But, Bluffton was going to be a good team this year again because of what they had coming back.
Yeah, and these stats, just crazy. Axton Best, he goes for 261 total yards and 4 touchdowns. Of course, the game-winning touchdown pass to A.J. Streveler for Bluffton with 36 seconds left. And how about Titus Lehman, the quarterback for South Adams, 41 for 60, 434 yards and 6 touchdowns and a loss, Coach. I mean, these are Shannon Griffith quarterback numbers here.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But at least we've got them.
This is what you'd love to see as a coach. Yeah. How fun, though, is it? And those are younger guys, too, who have come up to see the maturation year to year. I mean, especially in an ACAC where there's a lot of running the ball. Those guys are throwing the ball around.
Yeah, they've been a team that's done that, and they just haven't had that type of player over the last couple of years at South Adams, because they graduated that really big class. Was 3 years ago. That was one of the teams that could contend, and now they've found another class of youngins coming up that are going to be pretty good. And they've got good feeder systems there at those small school type of schools. South Adams, Adams Central. They've got good feeder programs into them, as does Bluffton. So again, that's going to be an interesting conference race heading in there to the latter months again, to see how Adams Central faces some of these teams coming up. And, right now, as we've said all along, it's Adams Central is the team that, until somebody knocks them off the hill, they are the king of the ACAC.
Yeah, and I think when you see numbers like 44-41 for Bluffton and South Adams, that also shows, like, if they can put up those numbers, they're going to have a shot against Adams Central, because so often, so much of Adams Central is just finding enough points, enough points to even stay with Adams Central, much less beat them. So should be interesting to see that. Great performances by both teams. One had to win, one had to lose. Bluffton Tigers get that win. And over in the NECC, Coach, very quickly, Eastside with the big win over West Noble. Very strong showing there from the Blazers. They look to be in good form about where they were 2 years ago, and just the ability to slide new guys in there. And I think we're seeing that with Job Richmond as quarterback.
Yeah, we'll have to see here as they get deeper into the league play, but it seems that Eastside is back in their rare form of, putting up big numbers and doing things that they're capable of doing. And it sounds like they've got some young men that have grown up again too. They were young a year ago, and so they're a year older. And right now they're running running through there with not much in front of them. We'll have to see here in a couple weeks where that all takes them, but we'll see what all happens. But it seems to be that they're running right now pretty good.
Yeah, 27-24 victory for Eastside over West Noble. Job Richmond, like we mentioned, their quarterback, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Trey Schisler for West Noble, 185-2. So he's a dynamic player too. Don't count out West Noble and what they're able to do, especially if they can get the ball thrown. So real quick, Coach, in the last couple minutes here, we'll kind of look at the look at the upcoming games for the week. And we will kind of breeze through these here and talk about some of them. Pull up the SAC first. We have, of course, as our lead game, our Midwest Box Breaks game of the week coming up on Friday. It's going to be Dwenger at Carroll. That's a big one. We also have Luers, south side of the Calhoun Street Battle, Northrop at Homestead, Wayne at Snider, Concordia at Northside. Decent games. I think a better slate of games this week, Coach. I think that Dwenger Carroll game obviously is the big one. But also don't sleep on that Northrop Homestead game.
Yeah, that'll be a good gauge for where both those teams are at. And I guess you could say we'll find out if, Northrop is up to the task of playing against Homestead at Homestead.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's there again, a little bit different setting and Homestead tradition. Really good to see where Northrop really can gauge themselves this coming Friday night. We'll head over to the NE8 and we talk about those games a little bit here on Friday, September 12th. We'll have East Noble at DeKalb. Ryan Roberson and company gets back-to-back wins, looking good out of the chute and getting things going there. We have Columbia City at Huntington North. That could be a high-scoring affair. We also have New Haven traveling to Leo and Belmont and Norwell. Those two teams looking for their first win. Belmont in particularly looking for their first win in a very long time. In fact, that team has lost 35 straight games now, so and only 6 points on the year. So some decent action out there on Friday night, I think highlighted by probably, what did we say? Probably East Noble and DeKalb, but I think East Noble just really looking good. Over in the ACAC, let's pull that up really quick here right in front of me, and we'll get started with those teams. We look at September 12th. We'll have Bluffton at Woodland, Heritage at South Adams, Westdell goes to Southern Wells, which Westdell is not an ACAC school, and then Adams Central back in ACAC play, get their first game against Jay County. I think the way this conference is set up, you have really good teams and not so good teams, and I think that's where this schedule is this week. I think big wins for Adams Central, Bluffton, and probably Westdell over Southern Wells. But that Heritage South Adams game, the big one for the week in that conference, there again could go a long way in really seeing who could be a contender to challenge Adams Central.
Yeah, that could be a good game as well. And Southern Wells has got them a couple wins, I believe, here of late. So good for those guys. I know they've been through the battles of late down there, and they got Westdell this week, which would be an interesting game between those two schools. But with that being said, we got to take our time and get out of here because we've got to get ourselves ready for the big one of Bishop Dwenger at Carroll on Friday night, as it's the high school football game of the week on 1380 The Fan. Remember, catch us at 6 and the pregame show, Parkview Sports Medicine pregame show with Jim Shevlin and Eric Doot and myself, and then the 7 o'clock kickoff of Carroll and Bishop Dwenger, and I will join Mr. Brett Rump. But for now, for Eric Doot, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. This has been the Upon Further Review on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.